Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting Propagandacast with me, your host, ImperialDane, and today I have for you a 1 vs 1 on Angoville. Yes, indeed, we shall be seeing an Angovillian fight right here, of course, with all the lanes, the roads, the hedgerows, and all that sort of stuff. And who shall be fighting? Well, in the southern corner, we shall be seeing me, ImperialDane of the Wehrmacht 716th Bodenständige Infantrie Division, one of the more static divisions, and who shall be opposing? Well, my goodness gracious, it shall be number 2 on the American rankings, EpsilonContador. Yes, indeed, quite a tough bastard. And this will certainly be a fight for some of you to remember. And of course, in fact, let's get right down to it. In fact, I'm a bit busy. I don't have a lot of time to cast this. And of course, this game is in fact going to be a bit short, so I do apologize for that. But again, sometimes time forces me to make a few jumps here and there to sort of get things done quickly. I'll try to make up for it the next day when I hopefully have a bit more time to get things cast. Nonetheless, Wehrmacht quarters going up for the pioneers, of course, the My Force. EpsilonContador facing off as the 1st Infantry Division, one of the veteran divisions of Northern Italy and North Africa, I believe. Wehrmacht quarters piling up. Pioneers heading eastward, sort of from to least gets all of the broader front, thus allowing me to sort of spread out his forces. And certainly first time I've been against someone of level 19. Well, I suppose or Devilish is whatever when he was as the British, but then again he was only level 1 as someone the Angoville, not the British. It was actually rather low level there, but that was actually a short match. Nonetheless, Pioneers fending off the Engineers for now, setting up barbed wire to sort of protect this area, which is rather the weak spot in the eastern half of the Wehrmacht. In general, for anyone, of course, laying down barbed wire can help a bit. Volksgrenadiers on the way, and we are seeing what looks like a 4-engineer start from EpsilonContador. Rather bold start again, this sort of thing that rather relies on seizing as much territory as possible, and of course also the fact that the Wehrmacht is going to be a bit slow in taking it back. And the 4th team, of course, laying down the rifleman barracks right there. And of course, I'm quite completely unaware of course, this sort of thing. I mean, I've seen a lot more 4 engineers, barracks, 2 riflemen, or whatever start. So I mean, I'm sort of getting the idea of it, and of course, the idea that I need lots of Volksgrenadiers. But again, I'm not entirely sure to commit to that because otherwise I might run into a bit of problems. But nonetheless, Volksgrenadiers heading westwards, engineers heading towards. I mean, lots of engineers again, quite a few. Wire down here to sort of protect this area. Another Volksgrenadier team on the way, thus giving me the usual 2 Volksgrenadier start. And there we go, catching some engineers, opening up on them. Volksgrenadiers away, K98K in hand. Someone with an STG-44 with single shot. And there we go, engineers running away, heading towards east. And of course, rather this spot, I'm rather thinking, well, that's an awful lot of engineers. Could this possibly mean he's going for that sort of, thing with several engineers and then some sort of other thing, rifleman, perhaps a sniper, who knows? And of course at that stage I'm rather thinking, should my next unit be an MG42 or should it be another Volksgrenadier team, and then I get a 4th one, since that rather seems to be working well against all these engineers. And again, the trick is to then really kill the engineers swiftly, and for some reason, MG42 fire seems to be scaring them off, whereas with rifle fire they sometimes gets a bit bold. Engineers once more forced away, riflemen moving in, and of course for some reason right here I glitch in my mind, rather thinking, well, then he's clearly not gone for that, despite I've seen lots of engineers. So that doesn't quite end up well for me. Volksgrenadiers retreating. Sandbags down here to sort of help with here. And trying to sort of deal with these engineers who are sort of running back and forth. Volksgrenadiers pushing onwards, trying to catch them. Engineers once more running into the building. One down right at the front of the door. His comrades can't be asked to pick him up. MG42 on the way. Rather, again, aggressive gameplay from EpsilonContador. And again, he's rather sort of emboldening the rather spirit needed to play as the Americans. That is, be aggressive, be bold, push onwards, ever onwards. For Uncle Sam and all that. And of course, I'm rather making a bit of a mistake here because, again, I really ought to have gone for the 3rd Volksgrenadier team and then the 4th one. The MG42, I fear, will not be helping me here against when there's a lot of engineers, and particularly some with flamethrowers, of course, which will just sneak through. And again, it will mean highly mobile, sort of fluid fighting, and of course the MG42 on the tripod simply cannot help with that. It's more for static fighting, and of course in that case engineers with flamethrowers will simply trump it and overrun it simply. Volksgrenadiers, even in greater numbers, will in fact help against that much better, and of course target down the engineers, then deal with the riflemen, because in these cases riflemen will be the minority. And of course, had there be another Volksgrenadier team here, the Volksgrenadiers would have been able to, they could have pushed onwards here. Instead, we are rather running into some riflemen who are running away, thus leaving the MG42 a bit behind. Small engagement right here, engineers burning away the pioneers, but the rifle Volksgrenadiers, of course, able to quickly focus down the engineers, doing quite a bit of damage. Other engineer team ready, but of course, they're also taking quite a bit of a beating from the Volksgrenadiers. And already here again, sort of more a slow pacing thing, right? Not too good there. Engineers are forced away, and I need to push onwards, but there we go. 3rd Volksgrenadier team, though, again. Would rather prefer more. Then I would actually have the infantry advantage against EpsilonContador at this stage. And that's rather what one would look for in these cases with 4 engineers, 2 riflemen. That is the infantry advantage. You want to be the most mobile with the most firepower. And of course, Volksgrenadiers compared to engineers will, no matter what, have more firepower in with flamethrowers, although that will be more sort of actual fire. Riflemen pushing through here in the center. MG42 sort of again. And again, I'm rather worrying what shall I try to cover, because again, there's open ground everywhere and there's lots of positions for the engineers to sneak through in. Again, that's rather where the Volksgrenadiers in larger numbers would have helped. And riflemen pushing through here, this position not looking too good. Pioneers running away to set up something here, going straight for the Krieg barracks. And again, I've not seen a Browning automatic rifle on any of the rifles. Of course, I'm rather expecting, well, perhaps something like a M8. Although I might be getting a slight nasty surprise there. Volksgrenadiers facing off against the riflemen. 1 down, in fact 2 down. Not looking good, but the Volksgrenadier team number 2 pushing up with the first one. MG42 might also consider advancing. The riflemen, of course, breaking through here quite a bit viciously, seizing as much territory as they can. Again, lots of engineers, quite a few, and not a lot of riflemen. But of course, now here they're trying to break through here versus these few Volksgrenadiers. And the MG42, which probably should have been pulled up a bit further to perhaps cover this area. But sandbags, again, if you can lay down sandbags, always creates a bit of protection against onslaughtering riflemen. There we go. Volksgrenadiers trying to take the fuel point, but first engagement here, stopping immediately everything and just opening up on the riflemen. And there we go, engineers. And of course, in what cases, what are the priorities for these sort of assaults? Always take out the flamethrowers. I mean, unless your rifleman opponent has grenades or something like that, always take out the flamethrower engineers. Again, priorities are vital. Trying to push through here in the well, although with some flamethrowers myself. Flamethrowers trying to sneak in through here, and of course turning about the MG42 to deal with that, by the other Volksgrenadiers sort of trying to hold the front here. And there we go, assault with the flamethrowers. I mean, we're going to see a rather heavy assault, but apparently keeping the engineers right there. And again, turning the MG42, facing down the flamethrower engineers. MG42 opening up on the engineers as well. And there we go, swift run from them all. I managed to win here, but the east is looking rather less funny, and I'm not actually having a lot of fuel. Looking a bit dangerous, looking very dangerous. In fact, Pack 38 on the way though. Mines being laid down here by the engineers, and of course now the flamethrower engineers are charging at here. MG42 should have been actually pulled away too, and there we go again. I mean, that's the incredible danger of the flamethrower. I mean, one burst of fire and all of a sudden you've lost several men in one burst. That's really the problem, why it can be a bit aggravating when you're suddenly facing, you know, lots of riflemen and then lots of engineers with flamethrowers. I mean, it really decreases the margin of error and really makes it a lot harder for you to actually secure your flanks. So of course, keep that in mind. Of course, you can help with barbed wire, but even that still work. And of course, if he keeps pushing, it's really going to be a bit difficult. And there we go, forcing away the riflemen, opening up, firing away. Engineers pushing through here to cut off this point, and of course, again, trying to seize this point. Pack 38 ready, MG42 reinforcing. And what is this? Again, he's been able to hold the fuel points again, partly probably because I've not been aggressive enough. That MG42, silly me. And of course, he's now going for the tank depot, and he's probably going for a Sherman, something that's really going to be a bit problematic for me to deal with. Engineers and riflemen pushing through here. Again, small attack here. Onwards for the fatherland. And there we go. Riflemen running away. I mean, I'm still able to do some damage to him, but sadly, again, due to the lack of the MG42, I'm rather lacking something that can propel me forwards. Pioneers opening up on the engineers. And there we go. 2 down. 1 left. Riflemen pushing onwards. Pioneers not looking too good, and this position shall not be looking too well very shortly. And there we go again. Engineers with flamethrowers. At least some of them are. More engineers with flamethrowers. In fact, there's quite a few, growing ever steadily. And of course, what do you target down? You target down the bastards with the flamethrowers. They are the priority target number 1. And there we go. Of course, soon everything collapses. Grenadiers ready. Pack 38 ready as well. Of course, I'm rather expecting a base assault right there. Americans pushing towards the west. Large force. Again, lots of flamethrowers. I mean, that's rather one of the key points, again, of the sort of lots of engineers start for the Americans. Get lots of flamethrowers. Those things are absolutely insane. Riflemen flanking through here. Grenadiers moving in. And again, sort of spotting something here. Just briefly find the strategic points and all that. Might have wanted to actually move the Volksgrenadiers in to help with that. Riflemen coming under fire. And again, rather realizing perhaps again I should turn the MG42 towards the front. Riflemen suppressed. Soon will be. Grenadiers joining in. And there we go. Suppressed. And there we go. One mother of an assault. Lots of flamethrowers. Lots of riflemen. Again, just incredible masses of infantry. This is a Soviet-style assault. And sadly, I mean, the MG42 is going to choose the wrong target here, not the huge horde here. And of course, the thing is, you have to sort of target the right point. There we go. But still, the rest of the force continues, still ever onwards. Simply too many for the MG42 to stop them in this case, and not enough infantry to really help them, but more are now rushing in to try and salvage everything this mess is causing. Half-track on the way. Nothing from the tank depot. Forces pushing through here. Might want to actually have shifted some of the full gunners towards the west, but too late to remember that. And there we go, only some grenadiers and full grenadiers. And grenades might get lobbed here, trying to hit into the clump, but I threw it too far. Wanted to hit the path, but no luck. Of course, I'm still doing quite a bit of damage to the enemy. Have gone terror, have gone for seal. Still quite a bit of damage still done to him, with minimal to me, but still he holds the territory. And of course, trying to desperately push through in other parts. And it's actually time to have a good look at EpsilonContador, who is going for the Sherman. Yes, indeed, nasty. That half-track ready, and I imagine that half-track might soon run into a problem. A very big Sherman-shaped one. Full grenadiers and grenadiers getting reinforced.
Taken by the enemy. Air recon is requesting coordinates. We've got air support available.
Half-track pushing forwards. MGs blazing at the engineers, hoping to do a bit of damage, and at the same time Sherman arriving, and he has gone for airborne, preparing a strafing run, which of course is going to make it a bit harder for me, because again, I am going to need to sort of focus my infantry even in a slight strip, and of course then strafing run and all that's taken care of. That's rather again the annoying thing with sometimes fighting against the Americans. If you do one thing, he easily has to counter to the other. Oh well, half-track pushing onwards, rear center up, riflemen going down, other German forces advancing for the father, and there we go, Sherman bashing in, getting another Pak 38s, and rather at this stage rather suspecting, well, he might actually be getting something bigger than a armored car. Rifleman facing off against the full gunners running away, and there we go, strafing run, pinning and killing quite a few. Again, you have to really sort of focus at least to get some decent firepower off against a large American horde. Pak 38 advancing towards the west. Half-track sort of, oh dear, no idea why it actually stopped there. It should have moved back towards the base. Oh well, misclick. Damaged engine, Pak 38 setting up. Panzerfaust at the rear. Pak 38 firing at the front. Pioneer down. Sherman gone. And Pioneer's down. This is rather tragic. Another Pak 38 ready, and for some reason I'm actually not moving it towards the west. Although the Sherman is quite wounded. The beast could be slain, but for some reason I'm not really focusing on that. I'm rather again sort of worrying that might be some sort of push in the east. And again, lots of forces, again, lots of flamethrowers, a few riflemen. And again, it's really the flamethrowers that's a dangerous thing, because the riflemen can basically just occupy your infantry, and then the flamethrowers move in to sort of flank, and then you're buggered. And riflemen moving towards here. MG42 trying to move in there first, and I fear the MG42 will not win the race. This is going to be rather ill for me. Trying to set up here behind the heavy car, but that's actually looking not too well either for some reason. And of course trying to move in against the Pak 38. Oh, the Sherman, this Pak 38 still not moving. Bad move from me. Infantry getting a bit too clumped up here, but again, you rather have to sort of do your best at times. Not looking well. Sherman just blasting away infantry out in the open. Should have spread out my assault a bit more. But there we go, grenadiers on the west, and there we go, strafing run. Again, and that's rather a mistake for me, but again, I was rather desperate to quickly counterattack, because the more time he had to prepare. And there we go, MG42 also in a lot of trouble. Things are really falling apart. Wanted to see if I couldn't kill that Sherman, but again, 3 engineer teams. I mean, that Pak 38 is getting repaired faster than I can actually damage it. Absolutely sad. Riflemen facing off against the grenadiers. And the grenadiers are actually winning partly due to seal, giving them faster rate of fire and some other slight advantages as they actually lose men. Still not advancing the Pak 38. And a lot of things not advancing at this stage. I'm rather thinking I shouldn't have gone for terror, but I actually should have gone for blitzkrieg, gotten some stormtroopers, or perhaps gotten a Stu 42 to help deal with all that infantry, basically blasted into tiny bits, and then a Pak 38 sort out the rest. But again, hindsight is ever so lovely, isn't it? Yes, indeed. And the Pioneer team trying to spot are now lost, and flamethrower engineers charging straight at the Pak, completely undefended, and of course easily scorched. Again, the dangers of the flamethrower, and again the slight annoyance of it. Grenade slopped, but sadly won't do anything. And false grenades pushing towards the riflemen right here in the east, opening up. And some other troops moving towards the west. Engineers with flamethrowers. Oh dear, things are not looking good for the 716th. Reserve infantry and all that. And there we go, Inspired Assault, hoping to quickly clear up the engineers. Doing quite a bit of damage, actually. Doing some damage to them. MG42 also advancing, but the Sherman is still there, still getting repaired by all these engineers. In fact, getting veterans 1, increasing the speed. Grenadiers getting reinforced. Another grenadier team getting out. No, that's false grenadiers. I might imagine something might be coming out there, and there we go. False grenadiers have secured the east, but really not looking too well. Still, he's actually still bleeding somewhat. I mean, I am able to somewhat keep up the pressure, but again, the lack of more infantry was rather my main flaw here. Sherman advancing. Pack 38's firing away, but it's now simply too fast for them to probably get the shot off, and now riflemen moving in there, and I fear another strafing run might be going in on the Pack 38. Just as the one turns about, off to get a shot. There we go. Hit in the rear, and there we go. Strafing run. Doing terrible damage, clearing out the Pack 38, pinning down the rest of my infantry. And the other one getting stormed by engineers, unable to do anything. This is really tragic. Not a lot of infantry left. All looking dark, grim, and terrible. Riflemen pushing onwards. Grenadiers doing their best to hold the line, but simply getting overwhelmed by the riflemen. And Sherman once more pulling away. Doing my best to advance for the fatherland, but rather bleeding at this stage. More grenadiers on the way, desperately doing what I can to sort of pull things together, but sadly no luck. Riflemen pushing through in the west, and I fear we might be seeing some Browning automatic rifles from EpsilonContador. Yes, indeed, false grenadiers facing off against the riflemen. Of course, Seal will help them a bit here. In fact, there we go, down to 4, and the false grenadiers might actually win this fight. Of course, unless some Browning automatic rifles arrive in time. Pack 38 seized by those dastardly thieving Americans. And again, lots of engineers to repair that Sherman. Absolutely nasty. There we go, Browning automatics against the false grenadiers. Might now actually lose the riflemen. There we go, Veterancy 1 making them even tougher. Oh dear, this is simply sad. Pushing onwards, Pack seized. Desperately trying to establish some sort of strong point. Infantry forcing forwards. Actually holding most of the victory points, but that's not really much help again when all of these engineers with the damn flamethrowers and of course the strafing runs instantly able to nullify most of my positions because cover doesn't help much. And Sherman moving in, only one pack, and again that's simply not going to be any good against a damn Sherman. And of course all the engineers with the flamethrowers trundling through everything. And this is pretty much game over for me. Without that second Pack 38, I'm pretty much done for. And of course those strafing runs doing all sorts of other nasty things. And yes, no make-game analysis, but I didn't really feel there was any need for that. So let's just speed up the last bit. And strafing run, in fact slaughtering the rest. And there we go, GG. Absolutely no chance of pulling this together. Terrible loss, not my most fun game, and rather short, and that's actually the primary reason why I don't really cast my losses, because they're really that damn short. I mean, it's rarely some sort of long, drawn, epic effort. It's usually because I get flooded with infantry and I simply can't deal with it, and then game over. I do my best, but sometimes, I make mistakes, and I'd rather prefer to learn those lessons in private for some reason, my personality and all, rather than having to expose them to all, in particular when people are goading me and pretending them for some reason have a right to see my losses. You don't actually. I mean, this is run on my own premises. Of course I do my best to sort of educate, but again I'd rather have my own little rules. But there you go, a loss for me. Hooray, now you can gloat all you want, and then you get kicked. Oh no, not really, but still, you'll not prove anything. Still, what could we have learned? Again, I mean, the sort of... Alright, that's just even more painful, seeing a grenadier getting hit by the Sherman. Let's just be left as a lesson. It's painful to play as the Wehrmacht. It's certainly not as easy. I mean, that EpsilonContador really demonstrated how dangerous a solid American player can be against a Wehrmacht player. And of course some will say, well, do this, do that. Well, I'm not. So of course, what can we learn? Well, against Indians, again, get lots of false grenadiers. Don't clump them up. That was rather a mistake, because again I was so eager to get them rush out to really counterattack. That was a bit of a problem, in particular here. That's just terrible. Going to haunt me. But also, I mean, I really did alright, but trouble was, again, I didn't have the infantry enough to really push through and really deny and really counter the effect of all those engineers. Perhaps I should have gone for lots of bikes instead to perhaps assist as well. But again, I rather figure lots of infantry will help, and of course able to allow me to push onwards. So there you go. I mean, mines would also have been perhaps in a slightly better position than this have helped. Still... Hindsight still. A level 2 the number 2 on the American list. I rather figure that would be a good fight. Nonetheless, of course, also learn something from the American. I mean, this start for the Americans can be quite helpful. Of course, the trick is, of course, attack from all points as possible. I mean, that was really what helped him, rather than just charging from one position for the most part. I mean, he tried to really get the largest sort of front against me. Right, rather tried to deny that with barbed wire, but sadly I wasn't able to put up enough. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, why not subscribe and tell your friends? And if you didn't, well, why not send in a replay of your own? This is ImperialDane saying cheers, and stop bugging me for losses. I mean, if you keep it up like that, I'm not going to show them at all. Rather simple like that, you know. I am the master of propaganda, and for some reason, you know, I have my rules. So cheers.